So good evening, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of LTI, I welcome all of you to this session, and I wish you a very happy Independence Day. So today's session is titled "The Need for Thinking Out of the Box." So before we move on to the session, I request you to watch the prom clip of LTI. So here it is for you. So dear audience, I don't think the video played for you. I think there's some issue with the prom clip. We'll sort it out in the next session. Sorry for the inconvenience caused. So before I hand over the session to the moderators, I have a few instructions to the participants. We have a chat facility to interact in course of the session and ask your questions. So you're welcome to do that. And I request participants to not share your personal phone numbers or email IDs on the chat. The second thing, certificates. So people who attend the entire session and the member of LTI will definitely get your certificates. So with this, I hand over the session to the moderator, Dr. N.D. Lokande. He is from LTI Satara chapter. He is an assistant professor of English in Daiwadi College, Daiwadi. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Praveen Sam. It's really a great pleasure for me to welcome all the participants to this LTI 65th webinar. The LTI Satara chapter is grateful to the LTI organizing committee of webinars for giving us opportunity to host this webinar. The topic of today's webinar is itself out of the box. The need for thinking out of the box will be the central theme of this webinar, which I do believe is very apt and relevant. Progress of human beings is nothing but the outcome of the innovative thinking. As a child, all of us are curious and eager to learn new things. However, years of formal education kills that curiosity and spontaneity, and we do forget our capacity to think out of the box. This comfort zone is the greatest enemy of creative thinking. It is rightly said that creativity allows you to make mistakes. I'm sure Dr. Maitri's lecture today would revive that spirit of making mistakes and learning through experiments. Now, allow me to introduce Dr. Maitri in brief. Dr. Maitri Shinde works as Assistant Professor and Head at Department of English and Languages, St. Mary's College, Hyderabad. Dr. Maitri is a passionate teacher with an experience of more than 2 decades. She has a book titled Ethnicity in Afghanistan Literature, to her credit, published recently in April 2021. She is an ardent researcher and has works published on women issues, ethnicity, partition literature, and soft skills. She has another book on soft skills to be published soon in collaboration with Cambridge University Press. In the course of her career, she has authored book chapters in prescribed textbooks for Osmania University and Dr. B.R. Ambedkar University. She has been a resource person at the Telangana Judicial Academy for almost a decade. She has held several administrative roles. She works as Head, Department of English and Humanities, as well as Internal Quality Assurance Cell. She is also a member of the governing body of a college. Along with Dr. Maitri, we have Ms. Srujati R. and N. Kishore as student discussants. Srujati R. is a second-year student of BSc Biotechnology in St. Mary's College, while N. Kishore is doing his BA in Mass Communication in the same college. Our senior colleague and treasurer of LTI Satara chapter, Dr. Ujjwala Tate, who is an associate professor at Department of English, Mahila Mahavidyalaya Karad, would moderate this webinar with me. Once again, I welcome today's resource person, the student speakers, and all the participants. Thank you. Over to Dr. Maitri.
Thank you, Dr. Lokande. That was a wonderful introduction. I hope to live up to that. In fact, it's really is nice to listen to your introduction there. Knowledge, when we speak of it, it is often spoken as though it is divorced of thought. Knowledge, by its very nature, depends on thought. It is produced by thought, comprehended by thought, interpreted by thought, organized, evaluated, and created by thought. And all knowledge exists in the minds of only those people who have well comprehended it and constructed it. When we say thought, we mean critical thinking. Good evening, everyone, and happy Independence Day to all the viewers who have joined us from different parts of the country. I also take pleasure to introduce our student discussants for the session. We have Srujati from the biotech background, and we also have N. Kishore from the mass communication background. So before we move forward, let me begin the session while I open my presentation. Yeah. I want to begin with a wonderful quote by Martin Luther King Jr., who said, "The function of education, therefore, is to reach one to think intensively and to think critically," right? And then let me also throw light on the objectives of the session. The need for thinking out of the box would cover areas like understand what critical thinking is all about, referring to a couple of definitions by popular authors, evaluate the different levels of cognition, taking into account the Bloom's taxonomy model, differentiate between vertical and critical thinking, understand the sub-skills of critical thinking, and eventually gauge concrete situations for out-of-the-box thinking. Now, I'm sure we have quite a lot of students or quite a number of students in our audience. Would you like to listen to a story before we understand what critical thinking is all about? I'm sure most of you would love to listen to a story. So the story is titled The Right Pebble. The story goes like this. Once upon a time, there lived a small business owner by named Raghu, who owed a huge sum of money to a loan shark. The loan shark was old and ugly looking, and then he fancied Raghu's daughter Neha. He put forth a proposal before Raghu to wipe out his loan. But then the catch was that he would be able to marry Neha in exchange. So this proposal was actually met with much disgust by Raghu, but then Raghu decided that he would hear him out. So the proposal was this. The old Willie said that he would place 2 pebbles in a bag, a white one and a black one, and then Neha would be asked to pick one of the pebbles from the bag. And if Neha picked the black pebble, it would mean that Raghu's debt would be wiped out, and then Neha would have to marry the old man. But then if she picked the white pebble, the loan would still be waived, but then she wouldn't have to marry the old man. Now, standing on a pebble-strewn path, the old man slyly picked 2 pebbles. In fact, there were 2 black pebbles and placed them in the bag. And then Neha was asked to pick one of the pebbles. Neha observed what the old man did. In fact, she had 3 options before her. Option 1, to vehemently reject the proposal and say that she's not going to pick any pebble. Option number 2, to pick both the pebbles from the bag and expose the man for cheating. Option 3, to surrender herself to the situation, thinking that her father at least would be freed from the heavy debt. Now, what do you think Neha would have done? She is definitely in a critical or a difficult situation, because it's not just hers, it's also her father's future which is at stake. Can I have our student participants to interact? Srujiti, what do you think that Neha would have done in this case?
So, ma'am, according to my perspective, I think she would have taken both the pebbles out and showed it to everybody in order to have a proof. Because had she gone with the first option where she blatantly tells everyone that he has done this, he might as well change the bag or probably prolong the situation. So the last option, no, it's not suitable because her self-respect is at stake. So I think she would probably go with the second option, where she can take out both the pebbles, show it to everybody and say, this has happened with me. Thank you.
Okay. How about you, Kishore? What do you say?
Ma'am, if I were in her place, I would never put my self-respect away for anyone else, even if it were my father. So I wouldn't pick up any pebble, and I would maybe wait for another opportunity to save us both, but not at that moment.
Okay. Taking option 2, when she wants to expose, if she had exposed the old man for his cheating, would it solve the problem? It wouldn't. And option number 1, it would be that, that would perhaps strain the relationship between Raghu and the old man further. But then Neha thought quickly and very creatively. Standing on her feet, she took a pebble from the bag and accidentally, without even looking at what she picked, she accidentally dropped the pebble on amongst the many pebbles that are there on the floor. And then she said to the old man, "Oh, how clumsy of me. Never mind, the pebble that's left in the bag will decide the color of the pebble I actually picked." Now, Neha acted quickly and very intelligently at that point of time. And then the loan shark had to play along with Neha, because if he voiced at this moment, it would surely mean that his cheating would be out. Okay, so Neha saved herself, and she also saved her father from a critical situation like this. So most of us are confronted with situations like this, and I think by thinking out of the box, we should be able to solve most of our problems. So she tried to connect the right dots at the right time. That is what Neha has done. Now moving further, now let's see what it is to mean by critical thinking. Now, Richard Paul is an internationally renowned person who has worked relentlessly on the discourse of critical thinking. He has more than 8 books and over 200 articles on the discourse of critical thinking. And he stressed on the fact that he critiqued on the fact rather that traditional philosophical approaches to reasoning have certain limitations and certain inconsistencies. So he said that these inconsistencies or gaps should be replaced with something integrated, organized, and if possible, a universal approach. And hence, his definition is based on the premise of giving importance to our own thinking mode. So that's how he says, critical thinking is about your thinking while you are thinking in order to make your thinking better. Now, Paul Hurd, another veteran in the discourse who has worked relentlessly on the discourse of critical thinking, also, he based his definition on the premise that there are too many facts but very little conceptualization. There is too much of memorizing but very little thinking. Hence, he said that critical thinking is the art of thinking about thinking with a view to improving it. And then Michael Shriven and Richard Paul gave an exhaustive definition on critical thinking and said that critical thinking is an intellectually disciplined process of actively and skillfully conceptualizing, applying, analyzing, synthesizing, and or evaluating information gathered from or generated by observation, experience, reflection, reasoning, or communication as a guide to belief and action. Now, when we look at the slide, there's a question there. Are there thinking types? Yes. Human mind is amazing. Thinking pervades all directions. In fact, every aspect of human life and every dimension of human mind. We all don't think alike. Definitely, our thinking is governed by certain prejudices, social conditions, family, preconceptions, illusions, and sometimes some kind of ignorance as well. But then, do we allow our thinking to reach a higher level? Do we allow our thinking to move out of the comfort zone, out of the box? In fact, do we allow analysis, assessment, and improvement to intervene our thought process? So that is the concern now. Okay, so this slide leads me to our discussion on a very interesting model called the Bloom's taxonomy. So this is titled The Different Levels of Thinking, where we have the different levels of cognition designed by Benjamin Bloom. So in 1956, Benjamin Bloom worked on the educational objectives along with the other collaborators and brought out a model in the university while he was in the University of Chicago. And then his work titled Taxonomy of Educational Goals. So after he designed a basic model, there were other collaborators and they brought out a new version in 2011. And then they titled their work as Taxonomy on Learning, Teaching, and Assessing. Now, the Bloom's taxonomy is basically based on 3 goals. One is the knowledge-based goal, one is a skill-based goal, and thirdly, effective goals. Knowledge-based goal is basically when we impart knowledge or we imbibe knowledge or learn a concept or theory. Skill-based knowledge, skill-based goal, basically to have or to gain a knack or to understand the knack of using the knowledge gained. Okay, effective goals are driven by the right values and right attitude, which means that using the knowledge in the right direction. For example, let's say that somebody who has learned a concept in journalism. So he understands the concept very well and he has a skill of using the concept very well. And then there is a responsibility on the person to use a concept in the right manner in the society. I mean, it is always to be used for constructive purposes. Now, the Bloom's taxonomy, when we see, it is for us to reflect as learners and also teachers, the various levels of cognition. If you see, the lower level of the pyramid has, levels of remembering, and then we move on to understanding, applying, and then to creating through analyzing and evaluating. So what do we mean by remembering? Yes, recalling facts or recalling theories, recalling whatever we have learned whenever we need them during exams or when we recall some kind of concept or theory when we want to. Then understanding, the next level, when do we say we understand a given concept? We try to interpret the concept thoroughly, but then without associating ourselves thoroughly with it, right? Applying, we apply the given knowledge in concrete situations whenever needed. For example, you're asked to find out, you learn a maths formula, you're asked to find out the perimeter of a rectangle, the area of a square, so on and so forth. So you apply that formula and hence you get an answer for it. And then analyzing the concept. What is analyzing the concept? You try to fragment the idea, you try to fragment the concept and then try to connect, relate, differentiate, distinguish, and then have a deeper knowledge or deeper understanding of the given concept. Now, what is evaluating? Evaluating is critiquing your own understanding of the subject or on the subject and critiquing the givens or the subject givens and then trying to evaluate for a deeper understanding of the subject. And hence that would eventually lead to knowledge creation. Yes, are you able to, or are we able to add to the existing knowledge bank, or are we able to add or create something more other than what is already there? So it is for us to reflect as learners or as teachers, are we thriving to remain in the first two or the last two or the last three domains, or are we striving towards evaluating and creation? Right? Now, for example, if Einstein's theory of relativity is equal to mc square, if that did not go through all this process, there wouldn't have been a major chunk of knowledge being added to the vast nuclear theory, right? So now let's move on to the next slide. We have something called as vertical thinking and lateral or critical thinking. Now, in all situations, we may not think critically, okay? There is something called as vertical thinking, right? What is vertical thinking? It's just a linear approach towards solving a problem or resolving an issue. For example, there is an issue, there is a problem, you know that, this is a procedure for it, and then you follow the procedure very, very meticulously without deviating from it, without actually using much of your thinking and much of your mind over there, and then you are able to solve the problem. But then when it comes to lateral thinking, or critical thinking, it is from multiple angles, from multiple dimensions. You are trying to look at the problem, evaluate it, try to come with possible solutions. Let's take an example that a company is not really doing good in its sales of a particular product. Okay, so then the company, the marketing staff or the marketing department is kind of tensed about the thing, and then they say that let's have a brainstorming session and then try to find out possible solution for this kind of an issue. So they sit, they brainstorm, multiple people, multiple heads sit, scrutinize the issue, they try to evaluate the pattern and then see if there are any gaps, if there are any inconsistencies in their selling policies, and then they try to come out with creative or the best solutions for the issue. So it is exploring all the possibilities, and then evaluating the best solution for it, right? Moving forward, we have what do critical thinkers ask? Now look at the questions over there, a series of questions that we have. What's happening? Why is it important? Can I see the real picture? How do I know? So this is giving us cues as to how a critical thinker actually critiques a given problem or a given issue. For example, let's say this is a common scenario. I mean, let's say that, placement drives are happening in a particular institution. And then each time the placement team gives a feedback that, we just have very few people who've been selected for the employment. And then there is a large chunk of people who haven't been placed or who haven't got selected, right? Now, the problem is they would, very generalized statement, they say that their communication skills are bad, right? Then the authorities, if it is a linear approach, the authorities would perhaps say, okay, call the English teacher or the English staff, and then he has a meeting or they have a meeting with them and then say, take care of students' communication skills, and then they have to be doing well in their placements. Now, how do critical thinkers actually evaluate this problem or this issue? Perhaps they would conduct a diagnostic test for the students, understand, analyze where they have been failing. Is it just the communication aspect, the language aspect, the English aspect that's a major deterrent for them to fare well? Or is it that, they are bad or poor with their confidence? Or is it that, their basics are not strong, and that is the reason why, they sound very low while speaking? right? If this kind of an analysis is done, or if this kind of a scrutiny is done at all levels, and perhaps call for a meeting and speak to all the teachers and then see how this can be resolved. We may not find immediate and best solutions at the first go, but then we would try all the possibilities. Yes, so that's how all critical thinkers go through or have all these questions in mind. What's happening? Why is it important? Can I see the real picture? How do I know? Who's saying this? What else? What if? What if means exploring possibilities, exploring more. Now let's see a couple of situations here. We have a few situations. We are trying to evaluate critical thinking, taking into account some of the real life concrete situations. Now, the first situation, we have a student struggling between his or her career choice and the family expectation. An experienced employee, one close to retirement, is forced to learn state-of-the-art technical skills to continue in the profession. Your best friend stealing your project idea comes as a serious issue. And finally, a teacher striving to help a college brat who comes from a broken family but has immense potential. Now, these are very random situations. Now, I want a couple of participants or the audience can also chat and relate, if they could relate to these situations and interact, and then say if they have, these issues that they have faced. Yeah, can I call our student participants to respond to this?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, I would like to go with the first incident because I relate with it. I was very much into culinary arts and I had even got a seat at a college. But then my dad was against it and I just couldn't outrightly deny his opinion and go about my own opinions because I was financially dependent on him. So I tried to explain it to him in a very systematic manner. I took a book and I wrote down all the pros and cons of the food industry and what I would be able to do within the next 10 years if I pursue this path. But even after that, he didn't agree to it and resorted to a lot of heated arguments. And I couldn't do the same because I knew that it would be pointless. So cooking was just one of my interests. And I had other interests as well, like film and music. So I thought of many different ways on how I could pursue my other interests or cooking itself by either doing agricultural engineering and then getting into food production and that way into the food industry through agricultural engineering. Or I also had a choice to take up mass communication, journalism, and literature because I was into music and film. So I chose the latter, but I had a lot of thought process behind that.
Very good, Kishore. Yeah. Srujati, can you connect to any of the situations here?
Ma'am, I'd like to address the second situation since Kishore has already addressed the first one. So this states that the employee is pretty experienced. That means he might have worked for the company very loyally for 30-40 years of his life. So let me address this issue in a more realistic way, where I would say that this employee might be provided with a junior to address him during all the computer work, because initially the company would have given him orientation. So let's go with let's divide this into three parts. One is from the perspective of the employee. He cannot mend himself to the whole new culture all of a sudden. He's close to retirement. So I think for him, if he's allotted the paperwork and he's given a proper orientation to understand, okay, this is how it's going to function, it would be great. And then when we put a junior just to work under him, he would learn life skills per se, He would learn a lot of paperwork. He would learn multiple things how to handle without even much experience, because this man will be training him. And from the organizational perspective, which organization would want to lose such a loyal employee? So I think it's a win-win situation if we just assist him with a junior and just keep him in a safe place where he's not pushed to an edge. Nobody is pushed to an edge. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you, Kishore, and thank you, Srijati. Yeah, when Kishore talked about the first situation, he was actually relating to his own experience, right? And this takes me back to a movie titled Three Idiots, where, the character played by Madhavan, he was actually interested in wildlife photography. In fact, but he was forced to get into engineering, and then his mind and heart wasn't there at all. But eventually it was difficult for him to actually convince his parents, but then he did it, and then he took his career on from then. And then, Srijati, your response was good. In fact, an experienced employee. Yes, you talked about how it could be a win-win situation when we actually think of rather stagnating an employee and then thinking that, he or she is not useful for the organization, but then trying to give a kind of orientation or trying to train the person could also be another option over there, so that the employee could actually understand or gain skills on the basics of the technical skills and then move on. Maybe he or she could be made to understand the importance of learning technology. So that's it. So if there is anybody in the audience who would like to chat on any of these situations or try to find any kind of a solution for these, we could do that when we have the when we move to the discussion round. Now, sub-skills of critical thinking. Now, what are the sub-skills of critical thinking? Is it that it just happens at the spur of the moment? Is it just spontaneous, or is it a process? It could be both. It could be either way. Sometimes, it might happen spontaneously, but then eventually it could be, an eventual process that could lead to finding out a solution to a major problem or a major issue. Now, thinking of an issue or problem in an objective or critical way, not just looking at the problem from your perspective or the way it is projected or the way it is presented, trying to analyze it from different directions. Okay, so that is what we mean by looking at it objectively, identifying the different arguments that are in relation to the issue. Yes, trying to figure out the different arguments, then evaluating those arguments, which argument is the strongest one, and then prioritizing your arguments. And then you have the arguments that are of lesser priorities, and then analyzing their implications. Argument number one, this would be the outcome of it. Okay, and then trying to understand its strength, its weakness, and then validity. Identifying possible weaknesses in each of the arguments. Yes, if I say this to my dad, or if I say this to so-and-so person, how would he react or how would she react? Okay, so trying to view all the possible implications of your arguments also is part of critical thinking. Now, next, reflecting on one's own assumptions and beliefs before arriving at a conclusion. Sometimes we are very rigid and we think that what we are thinking is the only way of thinking or the correct way of thinking. So it is always important for us to reflect on our own way of thinking before we arrive at a conclusion. So we are trying to evaluate ourselves, providing structured reasoning for the argument chosen. So when you are saying when Kishore has told that, his options did not work, the first option on culinary arts did not work, so he said he had a plan B. Okay, so he had a plan B stating that, you know, his interests were also there in literature and arts. So that's how he, you know, came into the mass comm course, and that's how he tried to convince his father, stating that if this may not have a great career, probably this could have a better career, and these are the arguments for it, and this is the implication of it, and this could be the outcome of it. Directing the solution towards creating positive outcome, or at least towards lessening the negative impact in some unforeseeable problems. So you're trying to put all your energy into the positive outcome, the positive result of the problem. And then finally, you review it often to see if the decisions that you have made and implemented are right. Do they need any improvements? Do they need any revisions? Yes. So you have to keep a check each time to see if the solutions that you have arrived at are right. Do you need to actually think about reviewing them, think about changing them, so on and so forth. So now, when we take the other situation into account, we have other situations also now. See, a teacher striving to help a college brat who comes from a broken family but who has immense potential. So a teacher can actually make the student understand what is right, what is wrong, perhaps expose him to certain situations where he might feel responsible towards himself, responsible towards the family per se, and perhaps, you know, see to it that his academics improve. Okay, so she or he cannot have a hard and fast rule that, you know, this student is out of control, out of hand, and then, you know, there is no hope of trying to bring out the student from that particular situation. So there is a possibility if we give a try. Now, moving on, we have a small puzzle for the audience. Can you think out of the box? Now, connect all these 9 dots using 4 lines and without lifting your pen from the paper, your pen or pencil from the paper. Okay, if we have to number them from the left side, 1, 2, 3, followed by 4, 5, 6, and 7, 8, and 9. So how would you connect? The hint is think out of the box. The audience could, I think, chat, put the solution in the chat box. Meantime, I think Kishore or Srijati could take a call on this. Would you respond?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, can we try using some other shape to it, like a quadrant or?
You just have to connect those dots using 4 lines and without lifting your pencil.
Okay, I know the answer. Ma'am, can I say the answer?
You want to? Yeah, please do.
Is I can draw a line from the top left corner.
Yes.
Drag it till here and make a triangle in the bottom, like in this corner.
Okay. 1,
2,
1, 2,
3, and 4.
1, 2, 3,
3, and 4.
4. Okay. So these are 2 lines, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay.
Would you
And
want to
then-
try one? And then I'll be done with all the dots. Can I draw here? No, I can't.
No, it's only 2 lines that you have said. 1, and then...
No, ma'am. From the left corner, I can draw one line like this, diagonally.
Diagonally connecting which dots? You number the dots.
1,
Yes.
5,
5,
9.
9. Okay.
And then go to the top, like a straight line
Okay.
to the top from the 9th dot.
Okay. Like this, right. Through 6 and then 3.
Then, oh, that way I'll be leaving.
Kishore, would you try?
Yes, ma'am. So, like Sujati said, I can connect a diagonal line, and then from 9.
Same dots, 1, 5, and 9.
Yes, ma'am. 1, 5, and 9, and then I go up vertically till 3. Right. Once I reach 3, I'm on the first row again. So
Yes.
I have 2 lines, and the hint is to go out of the box, right? So
Yes.
I think I would go out of the box with this line. Going from 3, yeah, it will go
Okay.
out through 3, and then I'll draw another line that connects 2
Okay.
and 4,
Okay.
and which comes out again out of the box.
Like this,
So-
diagonally again.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. So it comes out of the box again, and
Okay.
then I again go inside the box with the last line.
Right. Excellent. So the answer is right. You connect dots 1, 5, and 9, and then connect through 6 and 3, go out of the box, and then connect dots 2, 4, and then move diagonally out of the box, and then connect 7 and 8. So are they only 4 lines?
Yes, ma'am. 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Yes. So that's the best solution, I think, for this. Okay. Thank you, Srujati, and thank you, Kishore. That was thinking out of the box. So we end the presentation with a small quote by Einstein. The world as we have created it is a process of our thinking. It cannot be changed without changing our own thinking. Okay. So over to Professor Ujjwala. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Maitri. I will take it on from here.
Thank you.
A lovely and a warm evening to all the participants, organizing committee of LTI National and the entire LTI family. Quite an interesting session, Dr. Maitri. It has definitely opened new avenues of thought. It was indeed a wonderful and insightful deliberation on the need for thinking out of the box. I'm certain the participants of the webinar definitely love to listen to such an enriching session. Dr. Maitri, your talk made me ponder on few things. It is said that anatomical structure of the brain has a built-in autopilot setting. It is set on the default mode network that keeps us stuck in our ways. We just go through the motion, doing what we need to, but no more. Because maybe we are scared to deviate from the set route and deal with the change situation or face challenges. Dear participants, Dr. Maitri's discussion has given a lead to think that we don't have to wait for the situation to try new things. We just need to understand and evaluate our own thought process in the in any context. Maybe it is academic, non-academic. We all have imaginative, creative, critical, and analytical power very much within us. In APJ Abdul Kalam's terms, we just need to ignite them. We teachers need to connect with the thinking of our students at all levels and analyze its implications to facilitate them to become better learners, come up with new strategies, and create plan to implement all their newfound knowledge. There is fast-pacing technology as well. We have to adapt to it. We have to be ready to step ahead with the changing time, break the comfort zone, and enjoy altogether a new learning experience. Let us create free learning environment that enable us to nurture creative thinking and enjoy whichever task we undertake and make it effective. Let us brace ourselves for the 4.0 revolution, which is almost at the door. Finally, let us also give it a thought. I think, do we need a box all the time to think creatively? Now, Dr. Maitri, to take this session ahead, I declare the session open for question and answer. I request the participants to post their questions on the chat box so we can discuss few of them. Let me check the questions. Okay, there is one question from Mr. Zasharia Selvaraj. Dr. Maitri, your first question is, how can teachers of English language and literature incorporate today's topic in their teaching?
Yes, thank you for that question. In fact, that's quite a thought-provoking question. So now, instead of conventional way of instructional approach, process-based instructional orientation rather than saying that, teaching something, rather than stating we are teaching, if we can have a process-based instructional approach, then that would actually set the platform for allowing the students to think beyond their comfort zones. Now, what are we doing? We teach them. We are in a hurry to actually finish the syllabus. We are in a hurry to actually meet the deadlines in terms of conducting exams, finishing the syllabus, so on and so forth. So at least wherever we get room, we have space, we should probably make best use of that opportunity and see to it that we give kind of platform that where students can actually explore possibilities and are made to think.
Yeah, sure, ma'am.
I hope I answered that question.
No, that goes very close to free learning. Let the students get a free learning environment and let they try creative thinking.
So what happens in a process-driven approach? It is, the students are more involved. There could be a lot of queries, there could be a lot of interaction, there could be debate, there could be argument. Instead of, only we trying to impart something, it is always interesting when it is a two-way approach.
Of course, facilitation is important,
yes,
rather than giving only information. Okay, there is one more question, second question for you, Maitri. It is from Rajesh Kumar Pandey, and he asks, can thinking be included in a skill?
Yes, definitely. It is a skill of cognition. So that's how we talked about the various levels of cognition, and we try to gauge ourselves as teachers and learners. Where are we allowing that thinking? Are we allowing that thinking to move further, or are we allowing it to just remain at the base of the pyramid, taking the Bloom's pyramid into account? So it is for us to actually instill those thinking powers or those thinking capacities among students so that they, their thinking skills are more enabled.
Okay, yes, ma'am. The next question is from Dr. Singh, and he asks, what is the difference between critical thinking and design thinking?
Critical thinking, it's definitely a multidimensional approach, as I told you. Design thinking, I am not really very sure of this particular aspect of design thinking. Probably that's a discourse that's dealt in engineering or things like that, and probably in the course designing aspect that comes. Critical thinking, certainly I would like to answer.
Yeah, okay, ma'am. Okay, there is one more interesting question from Taruna Arora, and she asked, she says, I'm teaching primary students. Students definitely look forward to out-of-the-box solutions, and they are the young learners. How can children develop themselves for the challenging situations?
Okay. Now there are certain schools who actually believe in practical teaching, rather than making them sit in the four walls of a classroom. In fact, there is a lot of, experiential learning happening, innovative learning happening. So definitely, if we can provide them that ambience, if we can nurture that culture of collaborative learning, peer learning, I think, they could also be self-learners. I mean, we are just trying to instigate those thinking powers of them, and then probably that would actually escalate to the next level. And if that is happening at the school level, wonderful, nothing like it. I mean, there would be no end to it. I mean, their thinking powers or their cognition powers would be reaching higher levels from then.
Yeah, sure, madam. There is a question from T.H. Lawrence, and the question is, when the choices are fixed, as in the story narrated, how can we think of an out-of-the-box option as it is likely to be treated as a violation of the stipulated options?
Okay, I just gave very obvious options. Thinking in a very linear pattern. That was a deliberate attempt. In fact, I also said that, she picked, the girl, Neha, picked a pebble, and then she accidentally dropped it down, and then, she told them to see the one that is left in the box. Okay? The one that's left in the bag. So, in fact, that was actually how she critically evaluated the situation. She was spontaneous then, and then she resolved the problem at that point of time. But then I kept the option open. I asked questions as to how could she have resolved the problem. Is there any other way that she could have actually sorted that out?
Yes, ma'am. Maybe our new education policy will make these options open.
Yes.
Yeah. And I will take, give you last question, madam. Are lateral this is from Selvaraj, are lateral and critical thinking same?
Yes, lateral and critical thinking are almost synonymous. Vertical and critical thinking are different. Vertical thinking, it's a linear approach. It's a logical way of arriving at a solution. But then lateral and critical thinking are multidimensional. Yeah, they are synonymously used.
Yes. Thank you, madam. That with this we can come to the end of question and answer session. Thank you for the lovely interaction. I'm sure Dr. Maitri responded to your queries up to your satisfaction. I should move on to the vote of thanks. It's my honor to extend vote of thanks on the 65th session of the LTI webinar series organized by Satara chapter. On behalf of Satara chapter, I record my deep sense of gratitude to Dr. Maitri for accepting our invitation and for her graceful talk on the need for thinking out of the box. I'm sure all of us are inspired by her brilliant deliberation. Thank you, madam. My
Thank
sincere
you.
gratitude goes out to all the office bearers of LTI National for their continuous guidance and support. Thank you for giving us an opportunity to host this webinar. Let me appreciate the enthusiastic participation of student speakers. The session progressed fantastically due to them. I thank the moderator, Dr. Lokhande, for graciously introducing the topic. It was a pleasure to be with you, sir. Thanks are due to all the office bearers of Satara chapter for coordinating this 65th webinar wonderfully. I thank our host, Dr. Praveen Sam, Assistant Professor, SSN College of Engineering, Chennai, for his technical support and helping us run the webinar smoothly. Lastly, let me thank all the attendees for this for their active participation. We can see a lot of comments on the chat box. Thank you so much for your involvement during the session. I once again thank one and all on the platform for being with us and making the webinar a success. Before we wind up, there are a few announcements to make. I hand over to Dr. Sam.
Thank you, ma'am. I thank both the moderators for wonderfully moderating the session. I have two announcements today. The first is the webinar that is coming up next week, titled Shaping Indian Diaspora, Literary and Cultural Representations of the Desi. The resource person is Professor N. Usha, Department of English, Krishna University, Machilipatnam, Andhra Pradesh. You can see the registration link given over there, and you will get this in your mails as well. And I request the participants to participate in this session as well and get enlightened. The second information is about an FDP organized by LTI in association with Sri Ramakrishna Engineering College on reading back to basics, starting from 23rd to 31st August 2021. So I request the participants to enroll yourself. You can see the enrolling link, or you can use the QR code to enroll yourself to this particular event and enrich your reading competence. Thank you so much. Jai Hind.